There is a fear that MAGA uniquely exploits to keep millions of Americans voting against their own interests. It's not the fear of immigrants, unemployment, or foreign invasion. It's something far darker, and is being utilized to sway millions of working-class Americans into voting for the interests of corporations and billionaires, who are robbing them blind and looting this country bare. Today, we're going to be diving into how the fear of Satan is being leveraged in the craziest ways. I'm Thomas Westbrook, and I grew up as a conservative evangelical missionary kid, and for the first 24 years of my life, I was absolutely terrified of the devil, demons, and going to hell. And when you have a fear that entrenched in you, you damn well better believe that the political grifters are going to find a way to exploit that. Coming from an ultra-religious family, the fear of the devil was instilled in me from a very young age. Satan was everywhere. Despite God's omnipotence, somehow the devil ruled the world. Let that sink in. If my confused pubescent self got horny, it was the devil trying to tempt me. If I walked into a dark room and thought I saw a shadow or heard a noise, my paranoid hairs would stand on end, and I would think that it was a demon searching the house for spiritual weaknesses. I kid you not, I literally thought I was in constant spiritual warfare. If I saw anything that I didn't understand, I would literally rebuke the devil. Not because I was some kind of paranoid schizo, but because that was the environment that I was raised in. See, my parents were missionaries to Azerbaijan with an organization called Youth with a Mission, or YWAM, a multi-denominational offshoot of a Pentecostal denomination called Assemblies of God, which believes that all the bits in the Bible, including the bits about miracles and demons, are literally real. I remember on more than one occasion during one of the thousands of worship services that I wasted my life sitting through, where the electricity went off, as tended to happen in post-Soviet Azerbaijan, and it shut off the overhead projector, the mics, the speakers, and the electric piano. And without batting an eye, everyone started praying for the electricity to come back on, rebuking the devil as if this was a deliberately planned attack by the forces of darkness, attempting to prevent God's chosen children from parroting the same worship songs for the 100,000th time. Because it couldn't possibly have just been shoddy electrical work, an inefficient grid, or one of the literally daily energy shortages. And this way of looking at the world was hardly unique to the cult-like radical denomination that I grew up in. Frank Peretti's best-selling novels like Piercing the Darkness and This Present Darkness depict literal battles happening all around us between angels and demons, where prayer empowers the angels and apathy or doubt allows the demons to win. These books were targeted to Christian audiences and together sold over 3.5 million copies. So when I graduated high school and worked at a church camp in Texas over the summer, it's no surprise that almost every single one of the 100+ camp counselors believed this as well. One of the counselors reported seeing dark, shadowy figures in one of the cabins, and very rapidly a rumor spread that it was haunted by demons. So, over the weekend, while the kids were away, me and another counselor spent the night playing worship songs in this cabin, trying to rid it of this demonic presence. And when nothing unusual happened, we took it as confirmation that our holy exorcism had worked. But when another fellow counselor and I walked into the dark mess hall a few nights later, we thought we heard a noise and freaked out. In the ensuing adrenaline rush, our goosebumps were obvious confirmation that a dark presence must be lurking behind the cornflakes. Panicked, he looked at me and said, "Do you feel that?" My heart was racing. It was late and mass demon hysteria was floating around the entire campground. So, of course I felt it. We stopped and prayed right there, but I still felt the rush. It takes a while for a normal heart to start beating again at a normal BPM. Now, over the next few years, I would have several experiences and revelations, learning key insights that would shatter everything that I believed about demons, the devil, and hell, to the point where I entirely stopped fearing and even believing in them based on rock-solid evidence, even while I was still a Christian. And it's one of the most liberating insights that's brought me more peace than anything else. And I'll get to that in a moment. But now that I've painted this picture for you of how a massive chunk of American Christians view the world through this lens of spiritual warfare, where everyday banalities are potential existential threats, I want to show you how the GOP, and MAGA in particular, leverage this fear to their advantage.
If you vote Democrat, I don't even want you around this church. You can get out. You can get out, you demon. You can get out, you baby butchering election thief. You cannot be a Christian and vote Democrat in this nation. I don't care how mad that makes you. You get pissed off as you want to. You cannot be a Christian and vote Democrat in this nation. They are God-denying demons that butcher babies and hate this nation. You cannot be a Democrat and a Christian. You cannot.
This is Tennessee pastor Greg Locke of Global Vision Bible Church, live streaming to an audience in the millions. In the US, church and state are supposed to be separate. Like every other nonprofit, churches aren't supposed to endorse political candidates, and as long as they stay politically neutral, they don't pay taxes and don't even have to disclose their earnings to the IRS. This has basically turned churches into the perfect vehicles for grifters and con artists. No joke, I've been studying and tracking televangelists and faith healing fraud for about 4 years now, showcasing some of what I've learned in my Faith Healers Exposed series. And this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and almost every single TV mega pastor is knowingly and willfully defrauding their congregations out of millions of dollars. They all run the same scams, whether that's direct marketing gimmicks, selling garbage like miracle spring water.
Do you need a miracle? Real people with real needs are receiving real life-changing miracles when they use the miracle spring water.
Or raising money for orphanages that don't exist.
What about this mission? Tilton's Orphanage in Haiti. Tilton uses 3 different names for his Haiti orphanages. So when we went to Haiti, we asked the government officials in charge of foreign missions if they'd heard of any of Tilton's orphanages. They said no.
So nothing from Robert Tilton here?
And Tilton's marketing director made it clear when it comes to money for missions, Tilton is very smart. He's careful not to say what donation goes where, so he can avoid, again, how Jim and Tammy got caught.
They could have taken as much money as they wanted to and never gotten in trouble.
Or for buildings that God wants them to build, and then somehow later God changes his mind after the donations have rolled in.
I've always wanted to build a healing center for God's people.
Through direct mail and on TV, Hinn campaigned to raise $30 million for the healing center God had asked for. No one knows how much he actually raised, but one day he says the Almighty decided to put the plan on ice.
Basically, what the Lord has said to me is to wait. The day will come. I'm in no hurry, neither is God.
But while the Lord's healing center was put on the back burner, what did manage to get built was Hinn's $3 million oceanfront home in California and an opulent world headquarters in Grapevine, Texas.
Or the prosperity doctrine seed donations.
If you'll use your faith as you sow the 1,000 on a credit card, as you use your faith, God's going to wipe out your credit card indebtedness.
They tell people that they need to give their last penny in order for God to heal them or cancel their debt. They donate money that they don't have, stop taking their medicine, and within months, they're dead.
When he laid hands on Laura Twilley 2 years ago, she told everyone it was a miracle cure.
I have cancer all over my body, and I haven't been able to walk at all, or pretty much stand, and I'm doing pretty good now.
She even threw away her cancer-fighting drugs, but within 2 months, she was dead.
Behind each miracle healer is a trail of body bags a mountain high. These snakes fly private jets, they share the same lawyers, the same offshore bank accounts, the same tactics, and they surround themselves with private security goon squads. And with the fortunes that they fleece off their followers comes power. They buy more TV time and reach millions, giving them enough power to sway elections. The GOP knows this, so they court these evangelical megapastor vultures. Republicans protect these scammers, and in return, they get their endorsements. And not just subtle endorsement. Voting for a Democrat has now suddenly become equivalent to casting a vote for Satan himself, costing you your immortal soul.
You cannot be a Democrat and a Christian. You cannot.
When politics becomes spiritual warfare, when voting for one party is framed as allegiance to God and voting for the other is portrayed as a contract with Satan, democracy itself dies. Because you cannot compromise with demons. You can't debate the devil. You can only fight him, banish him, destroy him. But perhaps no one demonstrates the cynical exploitation of apocalyptic fear quite like Peter Thiel, the billionaire tech mogul, PayPal co-founder, and one of the most influential figures in the MAGA movement, who has somehow managed to paint any government oversight or regulation of his nefarious enterprises as a totalitarian embodiment of the Antichrist.
Peter Thiel knows about the Antichrist.
We're told that there's nothing worse than Armageddon, but perhaps there is. Perhaps we should fear the Antichrist. Perhaps we should fear the one world totalitarian state more than Armageddon.
Let that sink in. A tech billionaire is telling audiences they should fear global governance, fear regulation, fear oversight, fear any check on power of his businesses, more than they should fear the literal end of the world. And he's framing this as biblical wisdom. According to Thiel, the Antichrist would rise to power by talking about Armageddon all the time, by stoking fears of climate change, pandemics, AI risks, and nuclear war, and then using that fear to justify a totalitarian one-world government. He's even suggested that figures like Greta Thunberg could fit this profile. The slogan of the Antichrist, Peter Thiel claims, is one of peace and safety.
The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety.
And anyone advocating for regulation or international cooperation is potentially doing Satan's handiwork. The message to his audience is clear. Resist regulation. Resist oversight. Resist any attempt to constrain the power of tech companies or billionaires like him, because that's how the Antichrist takes over.
I'm Peter Thiel, and I know about the Antichrist.
This is the same Peter Thiel whose gigantic unchecked data harvesting companies Palantir and Clearview AI are currently turning the US and UK into massive surveillance state dystopias. His technology provides the backbone for ICE's raids as they arrest and detain legal residents without warrants, transforming the land of the free into a Stasi-like Papers, Please police state. And his AI systems have powered Israel's drone strikes, which have accidentally targeted and killed aid workers and civilians as Israel ethnically cleanses Gaza. By his own definition, maybe Thiel himself is the Antichrist. You want to talk about totalitarian surveillance states? Companies like his are buying and selling your personal data right now. Your address, your phone number, your daily movements, all packaged up and sold to the highest bidder. And it's not just shadowy government contractors. Data brokers make billions every year selling your information to anyone willing to pay. Which is why I recommend today's sponsor, Aura. Aura identifies the data brokers exposing your personal information online and automatically submits opt-out requests on your behalf. You don't have to track down dozens of sketchy companies and fill out all these forms yourself. Aura does the tedious work for you. And they keep monitoring because these data brokers are persistent. New ones pop up, old ones relist you, but Aura stays on it. Robocall spam blowing up your phone? Aura helps shut that down too, removing you from telemarketing lists. Before I started using Aura, I was literally getting daily calls from numbers that I didn't recognize. I would block them only to get the same spam call from a different number the next day. Now, silence. But Aura doesn't stop there. It's an all-in-one privacy and security tool that comes with a VPN to keep your browsing private, a password manager so that you're not reusing the same password on everything like a maniac. It has antivirus protection, real-time alerts whenever your information appears on a credit alert or a loan application, parental controls to protect your kids, and even identity theft insurance with up to $5 million in coverage should the worst happen. Sure, other companies may offer some of these features, but not all of them, and certainly not at this price point. So head to aura.com/holykoolaid or scan the QR code on screen to start a free 14-day trial and see just how many data brokers are currently exposing your information. The link's in the description. Thanks, Aura. Now to stoke these fears of the devil even further, the conservative Christian movement has developed an uncanny knack for Satan spotting in just about everywhere. Monster energy drinks?
You could have here in Hebrew 666 on the can. And then the Bible talks about the beast in Revelation, and look at Monster's ad.
In Pokemon.
Every time that you see Mewtwo, he's in this pose. Now, he doesn't have 5 fingers like we do. He has 3. But if they were the 3, on us, they'd be this. It's the satanic salute that all Satanists identify themselves with.
Oh, and this isn't just a US thing. In South Africa, the Pokemon games were literally investigated by a state-sponsored occult crime unit, even after the Vatican itself declared in 2000 that Pokemon contained no harmful moral side effects. And let's not forget the Teletubbies paranoia.
A prominent member of the American religious right claims one of the Teletubbies is gay.
Falwell says he did not research the issue himself, but his magazine, with 295,000 subscribers, points to what it says is evidence that the creators of the series intend for Tinky Winky to be a gay role model have surfaced. He is purple, the gay pride color, and his antenna is shaped like a triangle, the gay pride symbol.
And then there's old songs played backwards.
Listen for I live with Satan, exactly. I live with Satan, listen again. Okay. As I live with Satan.
And now, in 2025, we have Labubu, those fuzzy, toothy little gah! Okay, maybe that one actually is a demon. Christian TikTokers have declared Labubus as vessels for Pazuzu, the Mesopotamian demon made famous by The Exorcist.
Are Labubus demonic creatures that came straight from hell?
And they're literally burning them.
People are now burning and getting rid of their Labubu dolls.
Anything popular with young people, anything that doesn't explicitly glorify conservative Christianity is immediately suspect. Heavy metal music, Dungeons and Dragons, Harry Potter, yoga. The list grows endlessly because the fear is inexhaustible. But the demonization of pop culture is a sideshow. The main issue weaponized by the conservative right is, of course, abortion. In conservative Christian rhetoric, abortion is no longer a complex medical and ethical issue on which reasonable people might disagree. It has been reframed as modern child sacrifice to the ancient pagan god Moloch.
It's literally devil worship. It's Molech worship. Abortion is child sacrifice. It's Molech worship.
The effect of this kind of rhetoric is devastating. A woman taking a pill at 8 weeks to terminate a pregnancy before the peanut-sized embryo has a brain, before it can feel or think or experience anything resembling consciousness, well, she's recast as a participant in an ancient satanic ritual. The estimated 50 million abortions since Roe v. Wade made it legal have become a death toll that exceeds the casualties of World War II.
So you're comparing abortion to the Holocaust?
Absolutely I am. In fact, it's worse. It's worse.
It's really not.
Those who support reproductive rights aren't merely political opponents with different values. They are, in the words of one Crisis magazine article, adherents of the slaughter of the innocents whose attachment to Moloch makes them servants of the devil. This language serves a very specific political purpose. It destroys the possibility of compromise. It transforms healthcare policy into spiritual warfare. And it makes voting for any candidate who supports reproductive rights tantamount to participating in demon worship. And then there's the transformation of trans people themselves into demons. Here's Florida State Representative Webster Barnaby addressing transgender individuals who had come to testify against a bathroom bill.
I'm not afraid to address the dysphoria or the dysfunction. The Lord rebuke you, Satan, and all of your demons and all of your imps. That's right, I called you demons and imps who come and parade before us and pretend that you are part of this world.
Now, just how exactly Barnaby planned to enforce the trans bathroom ban was unclear. Was he planning to inspect everyone's genitals himself, or have a task force to do it for him?
My name is Caleb Popson Garcia. I'm a trans man. Transgender people are Floridians. We're students, workers, and business leaders. We're parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, and children. We work hard. We contribute to our communities. We pay more in taxes than the far-right billionaires who fund the AstroTurf campaigns do. These are the exact kind of bills designed to put my life in danger. And in fact, I've legally changed my gender marker from female to male. It says male on my driver's license. If I am legally male, how would they prove that I am transgender? Are the police going to make me pull my pants down?
But while Barnaby's outburst was unusually explicit, the sentiment is widespread. Representative Tim Burchett of Tennessee has claimed that Netflix uses mind control techniques to turn children trans, attributing it to demonic forces from the pits of hell.
Netflix is the one that we're talking about right now, but there's several that are doing that, and it's wrong. It's actually, in my opinion, it's demonic what they're doing.
And at a Christian nationalist gala keynoted by House Speaker Mike Johnson, one attendee declared,
"This is a demonic thing. I mean, I can't see any other justification for why people can't even figure out whether they're a male or a female. That's demonic."
I don't know, maybe the fact that some people are born with 2 X's and a Y chromosome, or XXY, or XYY, or XXX, or XXXY, or a mutation on the SRY gene that causes someone who has 2 X chromosomes to develop as phenotypically male, or any other countless number of chromosomal, hormonal, gonadal, or anatomical variations that make things a lot less clear-cut than male and female he created them. Look, biology is complicated, but this isn't that fucking hard to understand. And it's not demons, any more than being left-handed makes you somehow sinister and evil, although they used to attribute that to demons too. This is all just an extension of the 1980s satanic panic, only this time it's not Pokemon that's being targeted, it's a marginalized group of people. And from the Salem witch trials to the Inquisition, it's not like Christians haven't been having one witch hunt after another for the last 2,000 years. There is a real opportunity here for Christians to be able to empathize with trans people, human beings trying to navigate a difficult and real biological situation who simply want to exist in peace. They're an extension version of the least of these that Christ spoke about in Matthew 25:45. But instead, Christians paint them all as agents of Satan sent to somehow destroy the natural order. And if your political opponents are literal demons, then any measure against them is justified. Any cruelty is righteous. Any restriction on their existence is spiritual self-defense. Now, I want to circle back to Peter Thiel and the Televangelist to highlight just how royally they're screwing the working class. See, while mega pastors thunder on about demons lurking in video games and satanic Teletubbies, they convince their congregants to vote for candidates who will cut their social security, eliminate their healthcare subsidies, and transfer ever more wealth to the billionaire class. While Christians are taught that the Democratic Party is the party of Moloch, Republican policies reduce food assistance, slash education funding, and strip worker protections. There is a well-known Turkish proverb that has never been more apt. The trees kept voting for the axe because its handle was made of wood. Billionaires like Peter Thiel don't personally believe that Pokemon is demonic or that transgender people are possessed by Satan. They don't wake in the night terrified in sweats over Labubu dolls. And yet they clearly understand that people who fear the devil will vote against their economic interests if you can convince them that their immortal souls are at stake. Now, I don't know if Thiel actually believes in the Antichrist, but he knows that his audience does. And that fear of global governance translates directly into opposition of regulation of his surveillance empire. This right here is the great con of American politics. Transform every policy debate into a spiritual battle, and people will support policies that harm them, as long as they believe that they're fighting for God. They distract you from the class war with a culture war while they pick your pocket. They shift debates around healthcare away from whether or not a child with cancer should be able to see a doctor and make it about whether taxpayer money funds abortion. They shift the conversation about taxation away from building roads and schools and make it about the government forcing Christians to subsidize sin. Immigration isn't about economics or humanitarianism. It's about whether America remains a Christian nation. And regulation isn't about protecting workers and consumers. It's about whether we are ushering in the Antichrist one world government. The culture war is a distraction. It has always been a distraction. While you are worried about whether your daughter's Labubu doll is a portal to hell, your boss is lobbying Congress to eliminate your overtime pay. While you're boycotting Bud Light over a trans spokesperson, pharmaceutical companies are ensuring that you'll never be able to afford insulin. While you're burning Harry Potter books, private equity firms are buying up real estate in your town, making housing even more unaffordable. And while Peter Thiel warns you about the coming Antichrist, his companies are building the actual infrastructure of a police state in order to control you. But where does this stop? What is the way out? Back when I was in university, I woke up in the middle of the night filled with terror. My whole body was absolutely paralyzed, and I felt a dark presence in the room. I was lucid, but unable to move. I felt a kind of pressure holding me down. My eyes darted around the room, but I couldn't move or speak, and I felt like something was stalking me. I prayed in my mind, begging Jesus to intervene. I cried out over and over, "Jesus, save me, Jesus, save me." But nothing happened. I was terrified because despite my earnest devotion to God and worship of him, I was still somehow vulnerable to the devil's clutches. Then, after about a minute or so, it went away and I was able to move again. This happened several times over the course of the year, each time scaring the hell out of me. Until one day, while reading about neurology, I discovered a condition known as sleep paralysis. Now, I did an entire video on sleep paralysis a while back, but here's the short of it. When a person enters REM sleep, the central nervous system becomes hyperactive while motor neuron excitation decreases. Your brain essentially paralyzes your body to protect you from thrashing and hurting yourself in your sleep. This is normal. On occasion, the brain will exit REM sleep and regain consciousness, but the muscles glitch out and remain paralyzed for several seconds to several minutes. According to Scientific American, 20 to 60% of the normal adult population will experience sleep paralysis at least once in their life. When in this state, people often report hallucinations like the presence of an intruder in the room, feelings of pressure on the chest, levitation, and choking. For me, I felt a dark figure stalking me. Historically, the creatures that people reported always coincide with the culture of the time. In Newfoundland, reports emerged of an old hag who would sit on the chests of her victims. In Nigeria, it was devils. In Fiji and Mexico, it was was dead family and friends. In Iceland, it was a succubus or a goblin. In early Salem, villagers reported sleep paralysis as the work of witches. And unsurprisingly, after rumors of a UFO crash in Roswell sent a ripple through the media, people began experiencing alien abductions bearing every marking of sleep paralysis. Weirdly enough, after I realized that it wasn't demons, but was a completely natural neurological experience, I continued having sleep paralysis from time to time, but I stopped experiencing what I thought were demons. In one instance, I thought it was burglars breaking in. Another time, I felt it was ghosts, and then aliens coming to get me. And the last time I experienced it, it was just a panic attack while thinking, oh great, this again. On each occasion, my body froze and my brain panicked. After a few moments, I would lurch up in bed, gasping for air, acknowledge it was sleep paralysis, and go back to sleep with a newfound appreciation for my logical, rational cerebrum. Now, as I studied more about neuroscience and psychology, I found more and more completely natural and completely explainable things that people throughout history have attributed to demons, ghosts, witches, aliens, etc. And I've done several videos on those topics. But perhaps the most glaring example is the Bible itself, which falsely attributes demon possession as the cause of epilepsy. An epileptic boy is brought before Jesus. The boy reportedly had seizures, would fall into the fire or water, and would foam at the mouth, grinding his teeth and becoming rigid. Jesus, with his infinite Iron Age level knowledge of biology, opts for an exorcism. But we know what epilepsy is, and it's not demons. We can see it on brain scans, we can treat it with medication. This is just an early attempt to try to make sense of the world. And the same is true for hell. Christianity came from Judaism, and Jews never believed in an eternal hell the way that Christians do. Both hell and Satan are man-made ideas that evolved over time, and I've covered that in detail as well. Learning all of this helped to save me from my irrational fear of hell, my fear that demons were lurking around every corner. But without science, without understanding what was going on in my own brain, I would likely still suffer from a fear of demonic intruders. But my fear and paranoia gave way to peace of mind, because this was the devil of the ever-shrinking gaps. And as I understood more about the natural world, he shrank out of existence and entirely disappeared. But for millions of Americans, that shrinking hasn't happened. This politically useful devil remains as real and as terrifying as ever. And there are people who have learned to exploit that fear for political gain. As a small child, I remember lying awake at night, clutching the covers, terrified and convinced that demons were stalking me in the darkness. I had nightmares that chased me into adulthood. The fear was real, the terror was genuine, and it shaped every aspect of how I saw the world. But then I learned about sleep paralysis. I learned about epilepsy and the history of belief in hell, the neurology of fear, the power of suggestion, the way that our brains create patterns from nothing and pareidolia, because pattern recognition kept our ancestors alive. And slowly but surely, the devil of my childhood terrors, the devil that lurked in every dark corner of my church camp cafeteria and in the Azerbaijani electric grid, he began to shrink. He shrank with every scientific explanation. He shrank with every mystery solved. He shrank with every realization that the things that I feared had natural causes, understandable origins, mundane explanations. And eventually, he disappeared entirely. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. Replaced not by emptiness, but by understanding. Not by nihilism, but by wonder at the actual complexity of the real world, of our brilliantly wacky and wild brains. Tonight, I'm gonna rest easy. The devil of my gaps has vanished, and I'm free to evaluate politicians on their policies rather than on their feigned piety. I'm free to make decisions based on evidence rather than superstition, without fearing the damnation of my mortal soul. And I'm free to see my fellow human beings as human beings rather than pawns of the devil pushing a satanic agenda. And for that, I am immensely grateful. Grateful to have escaped, to be able to see at least a little bit more clearly. And I'm grateful that every night I can close my eyes without fearing the darkness. And you can too. Thank you guys for sticking with me to the end. I pour my heart and soul into every single one of these videos. If you value what I do, please hit those like and subscribe buttons. And if you want to support my work, you can either make a one-time PayPal donation or an ongoing pledge on patreon.com/holykoolaid. Thank you, and as always, dare to be curious, but don't drink the Kool-Aid.